by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Tuesday, 9th of July. Daily levels. Let's go. So we have a bull div that is formed for Bitcoin on the daily RSI, which is a good time to look at that RSI study I did a while back, looking at the different outcomes. The bottom in with a bull div is marked as green arrows, and we had 5 out of 30. So the odds of the bottom being in with the bull div are about, 16%? And the odds of the bottom not being in with the bull div, meaning price goes lower even after the bull div, is also 16.5%. And that's when price loses 30 for the first time. So that was over here. So at that point, we didn't see a bottom immediately. We didn't see a bull div form here, right? We saw price go fully lower, like a full leg lower, then form a bull div across here, and now that's where we're at. So in the study, that would be considered as an orange outcome, which would be, 16, 17% likely. Now that's out of all the times that Bitcoin hits below that 30 level. But looking at those individual instances, if a bullish divergence forms below 30 on the RSI, what are the odds that that is the bottom? So meaning, now that we actually know that there is a bullish divergence here, what are the odds that that marks the bottom? Or do we go lower, or where does price go next? That's what's worth looking at here. So if we zoom out and we go back, we look at some of this, and we'll take a few of these examples from before, looking at bullish divergences that form on BTC from the first time it goes below. So it went below there, formed the bottom. So went below 30, formed a bull div here over a much shorter time span. Went from there to there, or actually to this one. And of course that was not the bottom, but it was for a period of time. And this is the kind of important thing I want to note for today. It was 30 days that low held, so price did not go lower for 30 days. So it's very, very likely, in fact I'm highly confident, that Bitcoin's bottom is in for now. The question is, how high can it bounce? And what happens to other coins? Right? If Bitcoin still has a bit of weakness, a bit of sell pressure from Mt. Gox or from whatever, can Ethereum have a better bounce? Can Solana run more? Can altcoins run more in this period before you would expect to see any further weakness? Now, play it on. Price came down here into the lows in September of 2014. And then we had another bullish divergence here that formed across the next, what was that, 19th, about 3 weeks or so. That also marked a bottom for how many days? Many, many days. 3 months this time. And of course, price went sideways. We got a nice rally, retracement, nice second pop. Eventually went lower. No bull div here. That was actually just further weakness. Touch below it there. Nothing. Not a bull div. The annoying thing was when I did that study that I did on the stream, which by the way, if you haven't seen it, I went through this on a stream. Tuesday, a couple of weeks back. I was doing this Tuesday back here. Tuesday 24th. Sorry, Tuesday 25th. And unfortunately, my lesson got wiped, the TradingView screen. So I should go back and look at it. But you can watch this. You can watch, here we go. You can watch this and I go through all the different instances on the charts. And looking at some of them, the ones I'm looking out for are bullish divergences that form after price does go lower. So you can look through that if you hadn't seen it. And I'm not going to go through every one of them here on this stream, but on this video, the main point I was making was when Bitcoin forms a bullish divergence on the daily chart after going below 30, at that point, once the bull div is confirmed, it does almost always mark a bottom for a while. What it means is it's either going to set up the low, right, the bottom's in, or it's going to set up a consolidation before the next leg down. Because it usually comes after a period of significant downside, and then you get some relief. Meaning, here is one where it forms there, and you can see it double div, it sort of extends across to here. But regardless, that marks the bottom, right? That area is the bottom. Just looking here. Okay. And that bottom, we're looking at how long do the bottoms hold. You notice that of the three I've mentioned so far, none of them were actually the bottom in terms of a major bottom. That's important to note because it is the bottom for now. And it actually has a 50% bounce and then a couple of smaller bounces and holds for 145 days. So this is 5 months that this bottom holds for. And, you know, you go on and on and on. When it goes below here, there's no bullish divergence forming there because it's actually very weak, breaking all the way down. It starts to form one across here, going into the end of that bottom, into that low. Even here, which is obviously the bear market bottom, even here it spends several months going sideways and looking probably just as bad as it did. And this is one of the things where people will get kind of caught out, right? You'll notice how the time when it's not the bottom, right? So here, the time when it's not the bottom, it has the strongest bounce. The time when it is the bottom, it has a weaker bounce. And because price had just done this, what was everyone expecting here? Exact same thing. Like, oh, it's going down to 1500. Recency bias catches people. Important to note that. So, anyway, the main point is, and you can go through and look through all those different instances of Bitcoin daily bull div RSIs. Just had a daily bull div RSI. This does not mean the bottom's in terms of we're going to 100k from here. There's actually very few instances of BTC in a bull market, which people are, you know, saying that we're in and assuming we're in. There are very few instances of Bitcoin in a bull market putting in a daily bull div. In fact, you've got, I think, one here. Yeah, you got one from last May in the last bull market. That's the only time. Bull market, if you're saying the bull market started after COVID, right? That was the bottom. So from the bottom to the top, it never went below 30, except that one time, and it was a bull div. So obviously one piece of data is not statistically significant. You can't really rely upon that. And you look at 2017, so the other big run on BTC. Again, we had no instances where Bitcoin even went below 30 in the main part of the parabolic run. You'd have to go back to 2016 to find one time where it touched it. And that should be informative, by the way. That should be telling you its own story. And this isn't a bull div, I don't think. No, price didn't go lower. That should be telling you something. Bitcoin does not tend to go below 30 in a bull market, right? So even though we're doing a bull div, I would say the fact that we are below that level should be a bit of a concern more than anything. Last time it happened, you look at this and go, oh yeah, but we bought and went to new highs. But the bull market was over. This wasn't a bull market move, right? It didn't go to new highs and hold them and break higher. It went into a range. a massive range. So important to note that if you're going to be using this kind of statistical comparison, which people tend to do, but all they want to do is like, the reason why I did it that day on Tuesday of the 25th was because everyone was posting on Twitter, oh, Bitcoins went below 30 on the RSI. The last time this happened, it was a bottom. Using one piece of data, the last time it happened, we rocketed to the moon. Fucking idiots. Or you could say, wait a minute, in supposedly a big bull market, why is it so weak? Why is the momentum so weak that it goes below 30? Right? So, anyway, probably 30 days minimum before this goes to a new low, if it is going to go to a new low. Maybe the bottom's in. You know my thoughts on this. I'm not even bearish. I'm not bullish. I'm very neutral at the moment. There seems to be like people keep asking me why I'm so bearish. I don't know where this idea has come from, because I've just been saying all the way that it can go lower, but I'm still holding BTC spot. If I was truly bearish, I would sell everything apart from like my long-term Bitcoin. So I'm not like super bearish. Whenever I'm talking about these type of moves, I'm always talking about like from a trading perspective. Like, would I long Bitcoin here? No. Would I short it here? Also no. If I was doing either, I would tell you. If there is a short to come, it's going to have to be, for me, after it tries to make a move up, right, then comes back and either fails to go higher or sweeps that high. Like, I would need to see some kind of distributive structure form, which is you have a move down and you have this kind of sideways. One of the biggest tells for the market not being bullish is an inability to bounce and form, a strong base, which when you see it, you'll know it, right? It's the inability for Bitcoin or price just in general to either have a nice strong reversal and back into range, which we don't have, at least yet. If this gets back into range here, it's not. So I think what, at least to me, what a mistake would be is considering this as a range low reclaim. This is not range low, right? That's not range low. The volume profile tells you this. I've been over it a million times. When you actually look at where the volume is distributed here, it's above 61. But if you want to use a proper range low in price action, it's got to be 60. It's got to be all these wicks. It's got to be this level that was heavily defended, right? Many times, either front ran or defended. And what you had over here, because remember, this is what everyone was calling this, was a spring, if you're a Wyckoff. False breakout, price action trader. Whatever you want to call it, deviation, sweep of the lows. Everyone said it, and yet now suddenly, no, this is the reclaim. It's not. It's not, because all of the distributed volume, all the people who are buying and defending 60 are all underwater. They're all wrong currently. So the level to reclaim is here. You do that, boom, away we go. Must be new all-time highs coming. I see no reason why price would reclaim this, hold there, make a new high. I see no reason why it would do that if it wasn't going at least to 74 for a test. Until then, you can see all this and you can see people calling this the range low reclaim and saying, look at that retest. And first of all, what retest? Went above it, came all the way back below it, and then back inside. There is no retest, right? In fact, it's showing no real respect for this as a level, as it shouldn't, because it's not a strong level. Get that kind of 60k, she used a round number 60k. That is the level, because what can happen here is price can consolidate and they're like, oh yeah, it's holding and it's reclaiming this level, right? Oh wow, it's reclaiming this really nicely, and then it goes for the push into 60 and fails at that, and down it goes. Because that's the actual resistance. And that's just first resistance, right? That's not even including the proper value area low reclaim, which hasn't happened yet, which is that at that 60k, 61k area, and the point of control. This is, right, that's actually where the resistance is. Volume doesn't lie. That's where the actual price spent most time and traded most volume. Now BTC and ETH are both moving in the way I was talking about last week, which is all these fucking paths here. And ETH is probably the one I would choose for a trade, depending on how the next day or so moves. But you're basically just waiting for this. You're basically waiting for the bands to flip green, right? And so BTC, I can now draw this across all of this volume that we have here. You've got a new value area there. And so BTC is looking pretty good up towards the top end of it. If it's able to flip outside of it, or if you've seen the volume profile lesson, if Bitcoin is able to consolidate at that area, I would expect yes, we break out, we probably go towards the value area low. If 60k doesn't reject, probably goes to 61.3. That's BTC. ETH, looking stronger, mentioned this path again. ETH looking a bit stronger, mostly due to lack of selling in terms of there are fewer natural sellers for ETH right now because, don't have Mt. Gox, don't have the US government, don't have the German government, don't have whatever. So it's also got the ETF narrative, and that ETF can be coming up soon and all this kind of stuff. My plan is very simple. I would like to take a long trade on ETH back up towards some of this resistance, fill in some of these gaps. For me, I look back at this previous area here. We bounced off these lows. We bounced up once, twice, 3 times, 4 times between that wick and this wick. Right, see that? So we had this one, this one, this one, and this one. And so 4 times we had a bounce somewhere between 32.20 and 33.50. Price as a memory is one of the things that price action traders would ascribe to. And I think that it's reasonable to expect Ethereum to bounce to a similar area this time. You've also got the daily bands here again, like they were over here. And that time we pushed above them, as price tends to do. Even just pushing into the top band would be 32.50, 32.60. You've got a breakdown level here, which would initially act as resistance. Right, there would have been a lot of trapped longs who got long there with stops there, and it broke right through it. That retest I would expect absolutely to fail on the first time. People will cut their losses at that level. Now that doesn't mean the price can't go through it, but it's a reasonable area to expect that to happen. So I look at ETH and I just think, all right, probably there's one very simple trade for me on ETH. It's in this distribution. So since it broke down, since that breakdown candle to where we are now, put a volume profile across ETH itself. ETH is actually consolidating outside of that value area. So if you saw compared to Bitcoin, there's a difference there. And I think that is probably going to set up the next trade idea. I would say 4-hour bands turning green, and that would be the place to take the trade. But that's more for trade of the day, which I'll look across trade of the day on that and some other coins. And that's about it. I think, yeah, that's about it. Some shit coins bouncing more, but in terms of like percentages, it's just because they're so badly beaten down. Yeah. All right, GM.